My goodness. My goodness. As always, it seems my own community is the center of the pushback that I get. Whew. Oh my god. It's unreadable out here. I assume the screen just went black because mere moments before deciding to record this, I decided to turn off Elden Ring. It was making my computer fan too loud. Okay, here's the dealio, folks. First of all, we raised over $300,000 for Ukrainian refugees. It's a shame that fact getting lost a little bit in the, media buzz about my excellent opinions and high-profile disputes, but it's a real thing, and I'm very proud of everyone in my community. Thank you. Taking the day off. Cause I did an all-nighter. Not young anymore, I'm so sorry. But anyway, let's get to the heart of the matter, okay? J.K. Rowling, not a great person. Beefed with me on Twitter. You see, there I was, innocently tweeting out misogynistic stuff on International Women's Day. All J.K. Rowling had to do was shut the F up. I see you, YouTube. And she would have been almost uncritically beloved for like a century. Women be quieter and start apologizing challenge. Phenomenal stuff. The joke here being, of course, that a common slogan for women's liberation is women be loud, stop apologizing, a sentiment which I agree with, in most cases, unless you're J.K. Rowling. So, ironic misogyny, send tweet, very funny, haha, Vaush problematic, I get it, You think I'm unfunny? That's okay. We're not talking about that, all right? The issue I have, well, no, actually. There are a couple issues I have, but I just want to talk about one. I already know that I've decided on an inflammatory title for this YouTube video, so I want to present an argument, if that's okay with you guys. See, I languish, my life, it's a tragedy, because I care a lot about optics as a concept, but people in my community have, I think, sometimes latched onto that concept in a way that I think is counterproductive. I really worry that sometimes you guys would have been, like, for instance, there are some positions that I and my community hold that seem to run contrary to the attitudes you guys sometimes take towards the necessity for optically good behavior. Like the rioting during BLM. There was rioting, and that was bad optics. It's just a thing that tends to happen during protests. But we knew, the fine people in my community, right, that, an obsession with optics doesn't mean that you get to allow the other side to hyperfixate on the most optically pernicious elements of whatever kind of advocacy you're engaging in. Am I comparing my misogynistic tweets to the BLM movement? No. Of course not. The BLM movement was never as influential and effective as my Listen, the BLM movement and my misogynistic tweets led to about the same amount of police defunding, okay? In that respect, at least, there's a comparison. I can't swear at YouTube. Okay, let's be serious for a second, okay? So, the issue I have is that there are a ton of people on the left, in my community and elsewise, that are hand-wringing over this. There are people who are saying stuff like, my misogyny is some kind of setup to throw trans people under the bus by making the movement look bad. That's psychotic, of course. There are people in my community and in the left broadly who are saying, wow, Vaush really messed up here, really messed the optics up on this one. Which is a little weird to me because people seem to be acting as though I was being misogynistic directly to J.K. Rowling as opposed to tweeting about the billionaire author just indirectly, right? Like, just to be clear on what we're talking about here, we are just talking about tweets thrown into the ether, which she screenshotted. So, not to say that doesn't mean it's not misogynistic or whatever, but there are people in my subreddit who are like, where was that thread? Because I scroll through it, right? Where it was like, Vaush really messed up the optics on this one. He really couldn't have handled this one worse. Oh yeah, Vaush handled the J.K. Rowling drama poorly. I don't know how I could handle it poorly because there wasn't really drama. I just tweeted something and then she screenshotted it, you know? Like they're presupposing her screenshotting it as though that was something I anticipated. Like, can you imagine if everything we all said or did was subjected to the optical scrutiny of being screenshotted by somebody with 14 million Twitter followers? Like imagine anytime anyone on the left posts anything like, "Oh, well, you better watch out. You might get screenshotted by J.K. Rowling." That'd be a little silly. I'll just lay out my points right here, okay? I think that the people who are hand-wringing over this are borderline defending J.K. Rowling by implication. So the people who are fretting over this are essentially siding with the transphobe, either because their optics or civility politics brained in a very liberal fashion, or because they hate me so much that they have to adopt any position which allows them to condemn me. And it may seem self-centered to say that, but like there's a lot of that on the left. God. Anyway, I'll lay the arguments out here, okay? There are a ton of edgy shit posters on the left, like a lot of them. Oftentimes they say stuff which, optically speaking, is as bad or worse than some innocuous misogynistic shitpost. And I feel like if they got targeted by Rowling, we wouldn't be hand-wringing like this. Like, in ContraPoints' video on J.K. Rowling, she went over tweets of people being, like, really aggressive towards J.K. Rowling, like death threats and stuff, you know? And while Contra acknowledged that these were, like, harmful and bad, you know, she didn't really seem to want to focus the video on a condemnation of that behavior because, as she stressed, right, J.K. Rowling is a billionaire with incredible social power. In a way, you're really doing her a favor by pretending that tweeting something problematic with her name involved in it is somehow a concession given to her point. Like, let me give you guys a hint, all right? J.K. Rowling doesn't care about misogyny. You can read her books. They're not exactly like super progressive. She doesn't care. She cares about trans people and oppressing them. That's the thing she cares about. And this whole TERF movement is really just a conservative psyop with a very small minority of second-wave feminists being signal boosted by conservative media. Are there like mainstream feminist like groups that are advocating for TERF stuff? Some, yeah, but overwhelmingly, when J.K. Rowling says something transphobic and gets retweeted, signal boosted, has videos made about them, it's from conservatives. People who are often fascists. I mean, a lot of these people think women should be barefoot and pregnant. J.K. Rowling doesn't denounce the support because J.K. Rowling doesn't care that it's coming from them. She cares about support for her transphobia. So, a couple of points to that effect. First of all, conservatives don't care about misogyny. The only reason they prop up TERFs is because, well, it's the same reason they prop up Candace Owens, right? And Candace Owens accuses the Democrats of being racist while herself never criticizing or condemning the much more overt racism from the Republicans. It's a shield. It's a way of using woke language to form a wedge against, progressive politics, a way of separating people by invoking contrary language to defend a conservative talking point. The problem with that, in terms of condemning me for optics, is that conservatives don't care about misogyny. Conservatives care about degeneracy. Or to put it another way, if J.K. Rowling had found a tweet being critical of her, and then had screenshotted it and then followed that up with the Avi, the profile picture of that Twitter user, and it was like a trans person with 18 septum piercings, pink hair, or like, whatever else. That optically would have been as bad or worse from her side of the aisle than me being misogynistic. Doe, trans deer. Recently, Doe had that exact treatment delivered to it by a conservative radio host. I wonder if I could find that on Twitter, where Doe was saying essentially, not that I endorse this perspective, of course, Doe was essentially saying that conservative politicians should fear for their life. What a horrible thing to say about people trying to take away others' fundamental human rights. I know, it's awful. If you could ever believe such a horrible thing being said or believed. But here. There, I found it. Look at that. CC? Right here. See, Doe is making a Just a terrible, terrible point. So bad, so mean. And then there's a picture of Doe, who, from the conservative dynamic, certainly does look like a degenerate. Love it, not a criticism. To conservatives, that is as, if not far more, of an optics failing than me being me just posting something misogynistic. A person making a solid criticism of conservatives while being fat, that's an optics failure. While being like ugly, that's an optics failure. Guys, if you defend the rights of trans children, there are conservatives right now saying you should be thrown in jail for providing medical aid to them or assisting in the providing of medical aid to them as prescribed by real doctors. They want to pass laws against this. Do conservatives want to pass laws against being misogynistic on Twitter? No. So if you're seriously out here wringing your hands over how, well, Vaush is giving them ammunition for their arguments by being... No, you're falling for it. You're falling for the framework they're constructing. The framework they're constructing is one in which they attempt to convince people that misogyny is the thing they actually care about. It's not, and they don't. So don't fall for the bait by playing into that with this, oh, well, it was really irresponsible for Vaush to say something problematic about an incredibly large and influential celebrity. Do you know the shit I've said about Donald Trump? Do you know the shit? Like, would you do this to me if it was Donald Trump screenshotting? He's not on Twitter anymore. God rest his soul. All the stuff I've said about him. Oh, bad optics. I see so many people on Twitter who will jump into the fire to defend the most optically indefensible, marginalized people. I see trans people on Twitter tweet the craziest shit, and you guys will dive into acid to defend them. And I support that because you should never, ever, ever, ever allow optical concerns about people on your side of the aisle to prevent you from standing with them when they have a good point over the bad side, okay? What are you going to do? Throw a trans person under the bus when they get quote tweeted by like Ben Shapiro because the trans person said something optically bad? Like they said something, like seriously. I don't like people who do the whole like ironic misandry as a way of being actually misandristic thing. But if a person was like, Ben Shapiro is a fascist, I hate men, and Ben Shapiro quote tweeted them going, ha, you hate men? Well, it looks like you're the real fascist then, aren't you? Would you seriously go like, they're really providing ammunition? No, you fucking wouldn't. Come on. You did it because it's me. This hand-wringing from my community, I expect it because you all are optics frogs who learn every wrong lesson from me. But from the broader community, you are doing the apologia for transphobia. It's very, very disappointing. And by the way, Rowling never would have screenshotted me if I wasn't misogynistic. So the people who are acting as though me being more in good faith would have led to like people are acting as though I was on a talk show with Rowling where I had the opportunity to say something constructive and I chose not to. If that was the case, I think any criticisms of me would be massively warranted because there's the potential for good faith engagement. But I was just tweeting, She can screenshot and has screenshotted whoever she wants. She has quote tweeted trans people with like 500 followers, and those people then get death threats. They have to close their accounts. She didn't quote tweet me though. She screenshotted me. I wonder why. It's funny that, I can take the hate a lot better than most of the people she harasses can. The point is she goes looking for the bad look to go after. And as long as she's prowling around, and she does this, she drinks wine, she sits on her, no doubt, massive couch that costs more than most people's houses. And she scrolls through Twitter on her phone and she bemoans how much of a victim she is. And she finds people who are saying mean stuff about her and she like cry bullies over them, right? I would rather, if she was going to do that anyway, do that about me, because if I hadn't said something misogynistic, she would have just done it to somebody else and you wouldn't be wringing your hands over it because it wouldn't have been me, I swear to God, for a lot of people on the left, disliking me is some kind of first order thing. The only point that I'm making is that it's okay to criticize the ironic misogyny, but the idea that this is some kind of optical loss, that there was some critical error made, or that I handled the drama incorrectly, as though every tweet that I, a medium-sized YouTuber send into the void should be treated with the necessary skepticism of you will be quote tweeted and screenshotted by a billionaire. Like, that's ridiculous. Imagine if we did that to every single person posting on the left, every shit poster, every edgy content creator. The Chapo boys have said stuff like, imagine, like, would you, if the Chapo boys said some, I have no doubt they've said negative stuff about Rowling. I have no doubt they've said like problematic stuff about, you know, a great many conservative people, because I've seen and heard them do it. Sometimes they're even funny when they do it. Imagine like that snippet getting posted. Look at these Chapo boys. Wow, I guess, you know, I guess the left really is racist. Maybe they made some edgy comment about like Candace Owens or something. I don't know. Would you all go, damn, Chapo boys really dropped the ball optically? No, you wouldn't. You would celebrate them being a shit poster and you would make fun of the triggered right. And why aren't more people doing that? J.K. Rowling got triggered by me. She's a crybaby bitch. She's a massive baby. She's a billionaire with huge social power. And she was out there getting angry at some mid-sized YouTuber on Twitter for engaging in, you know, fairly light-handed misogyny. I can be way more misogynistic than that, okay? I had the kid gloves on. I can get, I'll, get me a real platform, okay? I'll show you. Like in any sane world, people on the left should be clapping like seals, you know, screaming, ha ha ha, look at this. And now there are Newsweek articles with my name in it. You think J.K. Rowling looks good from all this? You seriously think the conservatives backing her up are going to be more won over to the position of trans people being bad because I was misogynistic? Bro, transphobia doesn't exist because TERFs convince people that trans allies are misogynistic. Transphobia exists because conservatives think trans people are degenerates who are mentally ill and should either not exist or kill themselves. That's where transphobia comes from, not from J.K. Rowling. The TERF thing is a psyop. Christ, like you're like, this would be like looking at the Candace Owens grift and going, well, we really need to cut down on the number of people criticizing Candace Owens for being a grifter, because all they're doing is reinforcing her narrative that black conservatives get targeted for their position. I can't believe you people. I can't believe you people. I really can't. I think you're all doing apologia right now. And I think that personally, apologia in line with J.K. Rowling's transphobia is infinitely worse than me being misogynistic on Twitter on International Women's Day, which, grow a fucking spine, you fucking babies. Oh, wow, you know, you should all be clapping like seals. This is funny as shit. And instead, you're whining and crying. To the people in my community, I forgive you for the mistakes that you've made. I understand that when I talk about the necessity of optics, you're under the impression that means that we should engage in a kind of respectability politic where we constantly, you know, conform our behavior to optimize the, you know, our image in the minds of the opposition, to make it impossible for them to criticize us. I got news for you folks, okay? And I feel I'm not trying to, like, you know, as long as we're defending trans people, they're the optical weak point, okay? Conservatives hate trans people on a fundamental and intuitive and intrinsic level, okay? If you're so concerned with modifying, like, then just go be Stonewall white gay people, okay? Realize that you finally got a little bit of public attention and throw all the trans people under the bus immediately. If you're so concerned about the possibility that conservatives are going to make you look bad, Ben Shapiro, J.K. Rowling, any of these big conservative accounts, look at what they quote tweet. Look at what they post. You think you're going to win their respect by not being misogynistic on International Women's Day? No, you won't. You could be the nicest little bitch baby in the universe. You could be kind and civil. You could never be problematic. You could shave off all of the edgy shit posting, all the humor, all the problematic behavior you want from the left. But at the end of the day, you're still defending degenerates, and they're going to call you out for it. You're still pro-BLM, and they'll call you out for wanting cities burnt down. You're still pro-healthcare for trans children, and they'll call you out for wanting to groom children. You will never, ever be immune to their criticism. So the best thing that you can do, given that, is when you have the chance to make a good argument, make it. But at all other times, don't care. Don't care. Refrain from caring. That's not a lack of adherence to optics. Optics works when you're making the argument. But I wasn't making an argument. I was shitposting. And if it wasn't me, it was going to be someone else. It's not as though J.K. Rowling picks her targets at a comparable level. There are a few people at her level of publicity and notoriety. Hopefully I've made my point. Anyway, I forgive you all for being wrong. You have bought into the apologia for the conservative side. You know, that's very problematic of you, and I expect all of you to pay due penance by donating to me the next stream. To me this time, not to Ukraine, okay? I want lots of money. Because I feel like a celebrity right now with the Newsweek article, and celebrities make lots of money usually. So I want you to complete that aesthetic. I'll be streaming soon, and I'm 50-50 on doing another mass ban from the subreddit, you know. But I think you guys are reasonable and you'll come around to this, okay? So just don't worry about it. I'm just gonna follow up on this, okay? This is what I mean by I have no idea what you guys are thinking. Some people in my community are saying that if I had just said, white women shut up and start apologizing challenge, or TERF women shut up and start apologizing challenge, you know, the initial tweet with J.K. Rowling, if I had simply said that instead of women, that everything would have gone so much better. To which I have to say, you idiot, she wouldn't have screenshotted it then. Do you think she still would? Do you, like, ContraPoint's video on J.K. Rowling is like 5 million views. It's not like J.K. Rowling is like looking for good faith criticism to modify her behavior in response to. Like, what do you like? Oh, if only instead of tweeting this shit post into the void, Vaush had made a 20-minute video with a concise breakdown of how J.K. Rowling's transphobia is harmful and that women aren't actually a threat from the existence of trans people. She wouldn't have screenshot it then. It just would have been nothing. It just would have been a tweet. So what you're really contrasting is nothing at all. No engagement from Rowling, except for her no doubt screenshotting some other tiny little trans account or, you know, whatever. Compared to what has happened here, what actually did take place. And I'm happy that what happened. Because it's very funny, and it doesn't hurt anyone, and you need to get over yourselves and just enjoy the sheer absurdity of it all, okay? I'll stream soon. I love you. I'm rambling now.